We continue now at the top of Daf Yud Dalet Amud Beis in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 14b. On the previous summit, the Gemara brought a brisa that is accounting for what was placed inside the Aron, and we are now within the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, within the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda, we don't know what extra item was placed in the Aron, even though there is a double exclusion, because the pasuk says Ein ba'aron rak, and so the Gemara asked, according to Rabbi Yehuda, what is it? What extra item was placed in the Aron? And the Gemara now answers Shivrei luchos. It's talking about the broken luchos shemunachim ba'aron, which were placed in the Aron. And Rashi says Shivrei luchos shemunachim tachas haluchos. They were placed underneath of the luchos. And now the Gemara gets to the reason why it brought the brisa in the first place. Again, the Gemara brought this brisa to ask a question on the size of a Sefer Torah that was mentioned earlier. Now the brisa within Rabbi Meir said the Sefer Torah was placed within the Aron, and it was placed in this 2 tefach space that was in the Aron. So the Gemara now asks, V'salka daitach Sefer Torah hekefo vav tvachim. If it enters your mind that the Sefer Torah, the circumference of the Sefer Torah is 6 tvachim, so now we have to figure out what's the diameter, because we have to figure out how wide the Sefer Torah is. So Michli, let us see, Kol sheyesh be'kefo shlosha tvachim. The general rule is that if something has a circumference of 3, yesh bo rochav tefach, then it's a tefach wide. That's essentially the idea of pi. V'kevan de la'emtziyaso niglal, and since the Sefer Torah is actually rolled to the middle, what that means to say is that there are 2 poles like our Sifrei Torah, and therefore there's a little extra space in the middle. So you're going to have, if in a situation of, let's say, a Sefer Torah which has 3 tefach on one side, 3 tefach on the other side, in terms of circumference, that's going to be a tefach of diameter on each side. That's 2 tefachim total, plus a little bit of space in the middle. And that's what the Gemara therefore asks, Nafish le mitrei tifcha ravcha de beini beini. You're going to have a little bit more than 2 tefachim, because you have that space that's beini beini, that's in between the 2 columns of the Sefer Torah. And so betrei pushchi hechi yosef. So how is it possible that the Sefer Torah is actually sitting in a space of 2 tvachim if it actually should be a little wider than 2 tvachim? And so the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, Sefer Azara l'tchilasahu nigla. When it came to the Sefer Torah in the Azara, that Sefer Torah was not like our Sifrei Torah. That was rolled over 1 pole, and therefore it is exactly 2 tvachim. But the Gemara still asks, V'akati trei b'trei hechi yosef. But still, how is it possible that you're going to have a Sefer Torah of 2 tvachim exactly, and it's sitting in a space of exactly 2 tvachim? It's still not going to fit if it's exact. You need a little extra space. And the Gemara says to that, Amar Rav Ashi says, Dekarach be porsa v'karche la'el. There was a little extra part. It wasn't fully wrapped around the pole. They took a little extra and rolled it separately right above the Sefer Torah. A little of that parchment was sitting right above the Sefer Torah itself, and therefore that made enough space. It was now a little less than 2 tvachim, and it had enough space to fit in the Aron. And Rashi explains, Sefer Azara, the Sefer of the Azara, that's Sefer Shekasaf Moshe, that's the Sefer Torah that Moshe wrote. Ubo Korin Bazar, that's the one that they would read from in the Azara. Parshas HaMelech B'Hakil V'Kohen Gadol B'Yom HaKippurim, by Hakil, and also on Yom Kippur they would read from that Sefer Torah in the Azara. That's why it's called the Sefer Azara. So L'Tchilaso Hu Niglal, it was rolled L'Tchilaso, which means Ein Lo Ela Omer Echad. It just had 1 pillar, it just had 1 pole that it was rolled around. V'Niglal Mitchilaso L'Sofa, was wound fully around that pole, and again you just had that little extra that was rolled on top of it in order for it to fit. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, again Rabbi Yehuda in the Brisa said that the Sefer Torah was placed at the side of the Aron in the chest that was mentioned in Sefer Shmuel. So Makami de Lacey Arges, before they had this chest, Sefer Torah Hechi Hava Yosef, where was the Sefer Torah sitting at that point in time? And the Gemara says to that, Dapa Havin Nofik Minei, there was a shelf that protruded, it came out from the Aron, the Yosef Ilavis Sefer Torah, and it was upon that shelf that the Sefer Torah rested. For Rabbi Meir, now Rabbi Meir, Hai Mitzad Aron Mayavidle, what does he do with the pasuk in Sefer Devarim that says the Sefer Torah was at the side of the Aron? Because again, Rabbi Meir is the one who says the Sefer Torah was inside the Aron. Hahumi Boyle de Misnach Le Mitzad Velo Misnach Beine Lucha. He uses that pasuk to mean that it was placed at the side of the Luchos. It wasn't placed between the Luchos. Uliolam Begave Minatzad, but really it was in the Aron, but it was just at the side, meaning at the side of the Luchos and not in between. And the Gemara continues for Rabbi Meir. Now, according to Rabbi Meir, Amudim hecha havekaimi. So where were these Amudim? Again, we brought a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, which we said was an allusion to the Aron, and at the and inside the Aron were these silver pillars. According to Rabbi Meir, though, where were the pillars? And we'll say, according to Rabbi Meir, mi baroi, they were on the outside of the Aron. They were not inside the Aron, according to Rabbi Meir. For Rabbi Meir, and according to Rabbi Meir, Shivrei Luchos de Munachin Ba'aron Minole. Where does Rabbi Meir know that the broken Luchos were in the Aron? Because again, as we said, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you use the double exclusion to include the fact that the Shivrei Luchos were in the Aron, but Rabbi Meir already uses the double exclusion for the Sefer Torah. So how does he know that the Shivrei Luchos were in the Aron? And the Gemara says to that, Nafkalei mi de Rav Huna, he learns it out from Rav Huna's statement, to Yamar Rav Huna, because Rav Huna says, Mai dechsiv, what does it mean when it's written in the Pasuk, Asher Nikra, Shem Hashem Tzavakos Yoshev Hakruvim Olav? What does that pasuk mean? Melamid, what that pasuk means is Shaluchos v'Shivrei Luchos. The pasuk is saying that the Luchos and the Shivrei Luchos Munachim Ba'aron, they were all placed in the Aron. And Rashi explains Shem Trei Zimni. It says the word Shem twice. Ksivi Luchos or Shivrei Luchos. The reason why it says it in the pasuk twice, it's a reference to the Luchos and the broken Luchos. And the Gemara continues, V'idach, and the other Tana, Rabbi Yehuda, Hahumi boile lechid Rabbi Yochanan, he uses this pasuk Shem for what Rabbi Yochanan teaches. D'yamar Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, because Rabbi Yochanan says that Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai says, Melamid shahashem v'chol kinuyav munachin ba'aron. This pasuk teaches us that the name of Hashem and all of the names that are used for Hashem were placed inside the Aron. V'idach, and the other Tana, Rabbi Meir, V'idach nami mi boile lach. He also needs it for this idea, to teach the idea that the names of Hashem were in the Aron. The Gemara says, Inachinami, that's indeed the case. He does need this pasuk of Shem for this idea that the Shem and Kol Kinuyav are Munachin Ba'aron. But then we're back to our question within Rabbi Meir, Ela Shivrei Luchos de Munachin Ba'aron Minole, the fact that the Shivrei Luchos were placed in the Aron. Where does Rabbi Meir know that from? And the Gemara says, Nafkalei midatani Rav Yosef. He learns that from what Rav Yosef taught. The Tani Rav Yosef, because Rav Yosef taught Asher Shibarta V'samtem. The pasuk says that which you broke, and then it immediately says V'samtem, and we learn it all together. Melamed Shahaluchos V'Shivrei Luchos. That pasuk is teaching us that not only the Luchos, but also the Shivrei Luchos, the broken Luchos, Munachin Ba'aron, they were placed in the Aron. And the Gemara continues, V'idach, and the other Tana Rabbi Yehuda, Hahumi boile lechid Reish Lakish. He uses this pasuk of Asher Shibarta for the teaching of Reish Lakish. Diyam Reish Lakish, because Reish Lakish says Asher Shibarta. What does the pasuk mean when it says Asher Shibarta? Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaMoshe. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe, Yeyasher kochacha sheshibarta. Your strength should be straightened, that you broke the luchos. That was a good thing, the breaking of the luchos in those circumstances. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Sidron Shel Neviim, the order of the Svarim in the Navi is Yehoshua v'Shoftim Shmuel u'Malachim Yirmiyah v'Yecheskel Yeshaya u'Shnei Master. The order is Sefer Yehoshua, followed by Shoftim, then Shmuel, then Malachim, then Yirmiyah, then Yecheskel, then Yeshayo, and then the Trei Aser. And the Gemara says, Michli, let us see. Hosea Kadam, Hosea actually came before some of these Nevi'im. T'chsiv, as it's written in the Pasuk, Tchilas Dvar Hashem b'Hosea, it talks about the beginning of the word of Hashem to Hosea. V'chi im Hosea Diber Tchila, was Hosea the first one that HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke with? V'halo mi Moshe v'yad Hosea, but isn't it true that from Moshe until Hosea, Kama Nevi'im Hayu, there were many Nevi'im? V'yamar Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says, the understanding of this Pasuk is, Shaya Tchila le'arba Nevi'im, that he was the first among the following four Nevi'im, Shenisnabu ba'osu haperak, they all had nevuahs at around the same time. V'eluhen, and they are as follows, Hosea, V'yeshaya, Amos, Umicha, and Hosea was the first among that group. So the Gemara says, but still, V'liktamei Hosea Bereisha, so Hosea should still be earlier, because again, he's before some of these Nevi'im. And the Gemara says, Kevan dechsiv nevuasei gabe Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi, since his nevuah was written by the nevuahs of Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi, the Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi, Sof Nevi'im Have, and Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi, they were the end, they were the last of the prophets, so Chashiv le Bahadayu, so that's why he was included among them. But the Gemara still says, V'lichtavei l'chudei, why not just write Sefer Hosea separately, don't make it part of the Trei Asar, V'lichtavei, and have it come first. And the Gemara says to that, Aidi de Zutter, since Hosea is so small, Mirchasa would be lost if it was independent, that's why the Trei Asar, they're all grouped together, and that's why it comes at the end. And the Gemara continues, Michli, let us see, Yeshaya Kodim Miyirmiyah, V'Yecheskel Liktamei Yeshaya Bereisha. Yeshaya really comes before Yirmiyah and Yecheskel, meaning to say chronologically, so why doesn't he come in the order that we listed? We had Yirmiyah, Yecheskel, and then Yeshaya. Why is it in that order? Yeshaya should come first. And the Gemara explains, Kevan de Malachim Sofe Chorbana, since in Sefer Malachim at the end is the destruction, the Yirmiyah Kule Chorbana, Yirmiyah discusses the destruction the whole time, V'Yecheskel Reishe Chorbana, Chorbana v'Sefer Nechemta Yechezkel. The beginning is about destruction, and the end is consolation. V'Yeshaya Kulei Nechemta, and Yeshaya is all filled with consolation. So Samchinan, that's how we do it. We put one next to the other. Samchinan Chorbana leChorbana, we want to put destruction near destruction. Unechemta leNechemta, we want to put consolation by consolation. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Sidron shel Kesuvim, the order of the Kesuvim is as follows: Rus v'Sefer Tehillim, v'Iyov, u'Mishlei, Koheles, Shir Hashirim, v'Kinos, Daniel, u'Megillas Esther, Ezra, v'Divrei Hayamim. That's the order of the Kesuvim. And so the Gemara asks on that order, Ulaman Domar Iyov b'mei Moshe. Now, according to the one who says that Iyov was written in the days and the times of Moshe Rabbeinu, b'mei Moshe Haya, that's when it was during Moshe's time, Liktamei le'Iyov Bereisha, so why doesn't Iyov come first? We see over here in this order that it's Rus and Tehillim and then Iyov. And the Gemara says, Aschule b'poranusa lo mischalin, and we don't want to start with punishment, which Iyov is filled with. The Gemara says, well, Rus Nami, well, when it comes to Rus as well, which is the first one listed here, Poranus, isn't that also filled with tragedy in terms of the family of Elimelech? And the Gemara says, Poranos the Islay Achris, but it's true that it's filled with punishment in the beginning, but at the end there is good. The Yom Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan says, Lama Nikra Shema Rus, why was she called Rus? Sheyatza Mimena David, because David came from Rus. Sheriveyu la Kadosh Baruch Hu b'shiros v'sushbachos, who satisfied HaKadosh Baruch Hu with songs and praises. And the Gemara continues, Umi Kasvan. Now, who's the one that wrote the various Svarim? Moshe Kasav Sifro. So Moshe wrote his Sefer, Uparshas Bilam. That refers, of course, to the Chumash. Moshe wrote that. Uparshas Bilam, he also wrote the Parsha of Bilam. Ve'Iyov, he also wrote Iyov. Yehoshua Kasav Sifro. Yehoshua wrote his Sefer, Sefer Yehoshua. Ushmona Psukim Shebetorah. He also wrote 8 Psukim of the Torah after Moshe Rabbeinu's death. And Shmuel Kasav Sifro, V'Shoftim V'Rus. Shmuel wrote his Sefer, Sefer Shmuel, and Shoftim and Sefer Rus. David Kasav Sefer Tehillim, and David wrote the Sefer Tehillim Al Yedei Asara Zekanim. It was compiled through the writings of 10 elders, meaning there were earlier writings that were put together in Sefer Tehillim, and they were as follows: Al Yedei Adam Harishon, Al Yedei Malki Tzedek, V'Al Yedei Avraham, V'Al Yedei Moshe, V'Al Yedei Haman. Again, through Adam Harishon is included his writings, and Malki Tzedek, and Avram, and Moshe, and Haman, V'Al Yedei Yedusun, V'Al Yedei Asaf, and Yedusun, and Asaf. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tesvav Amud Aleph.